Good morning. Today's message actually was prepared right after yesterday's message. In fact, after I completed yesterday's message and while it was still uploading for the very first time yesterday, I ended up in tears as I pondered what I had shared in the Transforming Our World message. And as those of you that watched that message realize, something struck a chord in me as I shared how there was a resistance, a reluctance to open up and say, as Lauren had said, I am an open vessel. God can do whatever God wants. And I had several comments, but during the day yesterday about that. But in any case, it opened me up, and I literally was in tears. And before the first attempt at uploading yesterday occurred, I had written what is now today's video, although I was actually going to do it yesterday, and I was going to take a day off today. I was going to do two on the same day and then not do one this morning. It didn't work out that way because it took me 4 times to actually publish yesterday's video. It was 97%, sitting right here at the computer, 97% was completed in the publishing process. And remember, the uploading is a 2-step process that can take up to an hour, sometimes 45 minutes to an hour, to go through the saving and then the publishing process. I was 97% published, and then an error message came up saying that there was a network error and my video wasn't published. The same thing happened again on a second try. The third try, my computer simply shut off in the middle of the process, making me start again on a 4th attempt. And by the time those 4 attempts were completed and I actually was able to get the video published from yesterday, I no longer had the interest in doing the video, which from my perspective this morning and then is unfortunate, because I was in a state of high emotional charge, which I like that. I feel connected when I feel those emotionally charged moments. Those are high points for me. I know some people see it differently, but I still like those mountaintop experiences where I'm feeling really connected. So anyway, I said all of that as a prelude to today's video, which I don't know that I will even be able to capture the spirit that I was feeling yesterday. The title is Ninth Wave, Honest to God. And here's the blurb that I wrote yesterday during my first attempt at uploading yesterday's video. Have you ever told God the truth? I don't mean your religious truth. I don't mean what you think you are supposed to say. I mean, have you ever told God how you really feel? No sugarcoating, no BS, no nice platitudes, the real truth. Did you ever tell God how much it hurts to be human? Isn't it about time? We've all felt it. Are we ready for this level of authenticity? I don't want to get into a theological discussion about what God is. I was trained as a fundamentalist Christian to see God as the ruler of the world, the ruler of the universe, the omnipotent one, the omniscient one, the all-loving one, the all-knowing one. I was trained to see God as supreme, truly as the sovereign of everything and everyone. Up in the heavens, separated from me. That's how I was trained to see God. And at a very early age, I dedicated my life to God. At a very, very early age, I committed myself to following spiritual principles as I was taught them and as I developed them through the course of my life. Many, many were the times during my life that I rededicated, recommitted myself to following God's will, to establishing God's kingdom on earth. Many times. But what's been coming to me again, and it's not the first time in my life that this has occurred, I am being brought face to face with a very deep mistrust of God as I've understood and defined God. A definition that I no longer agree with intellectually, and spiritually I don't think it's 100% accurate. Nevertheless, the issues are within me, and they come forth within me on an emotional level when I'm challenged to surrender. Because a part of me still does not trust God to do the right thing and to allow things to work what I think of as for my good. Some of that, I'm convinced, is past life experience, where I ended up having to give up my physical life, my physical property, no doubt, where I had to surrender. And in this life, as I've realized that everything that happens to me is actually a manifestation of what's going on inside of me. And I realized yesterday as I was sharing that so much of what I see in the world and what I see as being wrong with the world boils down to a very real, for me, a very real fact that the world is what it is because we don't trust God. And we don't trust God oftentimes because we've become so religious that we've been unwilling to tell God the truth. I could go back and I could dig out some of my old poetry where I cried out to God, where I felt absolutely abandoned, neglected, unsupported. These are real feelings. I can remember a time when I went way out on a limb, made myself a veritable fool, believing that God would support me in a manner that never occurred. And these real experiences hurt like hell, and they're still inside of me. I realized that yesterday, which is why I cried as I cried, because it's still inside of me. This distrust of what I call God, this feeling that God is not the faithful, loving, kind, all-powerful being that I wanted him to be. And I think that's true of many people, which is why I think we have the world that we live in and why there's so much war around the idea of God. I'm grateful that we're learning to take responsibility and we're learning to broaden our vision to see that God, in his grace, has allowed the manifestation of that which is within us to try to get us to wake up. Of course, the truth of the matter is, for generation after generation, we have remained asleep and playing the role of victim, not taking full responsibility for that which appears in our lives. But it's difficult as a human to take full responsibility when you do feel like a victim, when you do feel as if life is not fair, that there are injustices that abound and dominate. When I look at the world that we live in today, in 2011, and I look back over the last 10 years at least since 9/11 wake-up call, since that catalyzing event that began to show people that we were being lied to on a massive level. Some people still don't get that one, and I'm not going to dwell there. But the last 10 years have been years of awakening as we understand that the world isn't what we thought it was, and our politics and our monetary system, and nothing is the way that we thought it was. And I look at this and I listen to people that say the world is perfect exactly as it is. No, it's not. A part of me screams, it is not perfect the way it is. It's horrible. It's inhumane. It's unjust. And this is not the kingdom of heaven on earth. This is not the era of peace and love. This is not the time of reconciliation, because it's not what we see happening in the physical world. And so there's a dichotomy in me that exists in the world at large, where we see our religious ideas and our spiritual platitudes don't work or don't seem to work in the real world. And there's a deep hurt and an anger. Sometimes, if I allow it, there's been even a rage at God for allowing this stuff to happen. Yes, I can get it and I can understand it. But honest to God, there's still hurt in me. And there's still hurt in the human race, in our collective unconscious that is becoming more conscious, even as mine is, so many people. This is becoming conscious. So we need to say to God, it's time to allow your kingdom to manifest on the earth. And I do present my body as a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to you, which is my reasonable service. Work in me, work through me, do whatever is necessary to bring your kingdom into visible manifestation on the planet. Whether it's cooperation with angels or extraterrestrials, whatever it takes to bring everything into alignment with the purposes of peace and the purposes of love. No more of this craziness, this insanity of allowing our disconnected egos based on lack and fear to rule the show and to run everything. I take responsibility, God. I take responsibility that you have shown exactly what's been going on in me. And the war that's going on in the world is the war that's been going on in me. I admit that, God. But it's time, God. It's time for you to change this. And I'm willing to make whatever changes I can. But you have to work in me and through me as me and everyone else that's crying out for the same thing. This is the time, Lord. This is the ninth wave. This is the time to get it together. Honest to God, we need more than we've ever seen before. We need what Jesus said, greater things than these shall you do. This is the time. Let us do the greater things that need to be done to make the world something that you can be proud of, that we can all be proud of, instead of the world as we've known it. That's my cry, God. Honest to God. Namaste.